Hello, everyone, and welcome into the Line Lookahead version of Football Takes. I'm your host, Thor Nystrom, joined by my co-host, Robbie Rosenhaus. Over the next 30, 40 minutes, Robbie and I are going to go over next weekend's NFL lines, starting on Christmas. We of course, have a big selection of games on Christmas, but go through the entire NFL weekend. And at the end, I'll be guessing the spread of all the NFL games. And at the end, we're also going to guess the spread of the 4 round 2 college football playoff games. Robbie, how you doing? And are you ready to get into this?
I'm ready for a week of spreads. I'm ready for a week of Christmas spreads. I'm ready for a week of NFL spreads, and the college football playoff, which is your specialty, is coming up. And we have 4 juicy games on the slate. But before we get to that, let's quickly go to the NFL and go to the Christmas Day slate. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention my 3-0 on Thor's Hammers from last week. The Bears, the Panthers, and the Titans all coming out with not only victories, but outright victories as home underdogs, although the Bears may have closed as a favorite in that one game. But on to Christmas. I'm sorry,
Thor. Sweep for Robbie this week.
Yeah, nice sweep after Thor gets the sweep in the opening week. He went 1-2 this week, so we both sit 4-2 heading into.
Both sit 4-2 against the spread.
And next week Thor's Hammers will be on a hiatus for the holidays, so we'll come back after that with some playoff winners, of course, and you'll be on a bowl special that will have some information at the end of this program to give the listeners so that they can make some profit as well. But on to the NFL games this upcoming week. Cowboys and Commanders, 2 teams out of it. That's the first game on Netflix. Cowboys come in 6-8-1. Commanders 4-11. Again, the Cowboys this week did not. And I think that they're going into DC. And what do you think the line is?
I'm going to say Cowboys. Well, here it's the quit factor. We know Commanders have quit. Dallas, maybe not quite all the way. Dallas, a little bit better of a team. Dallas on the road here. I'm going to go Cowboys -4.
So the Cowboys open up -5.5, so 1.5 higher than what you had originally thought there. Cowboys sometimes have trouble in DC. It's a divisional matchup. Both those teams, fan bases hate each other. Yeah, so again, it could be a closer game than anticipated, not over the touchdown mark, but that'll lead things off on Christmas. Of course, we stay here in the divisional matchup where the Lions and Vikings will take the stage on Christmas for the second game. And the Vikings come into the game off of a couple of consecutive wins, including one in New York. And now they'll take on a Lions team that comes into the game off of a decent performance against the Steelers as we tape this. And the Vikings come in 7-8. Lions come in you would think a slight favorite in this game because of J.J. McCarthy and his injury, but how do you see it, Thor?
Yeah, the Lions, as we're recording this on Sunday night, quite the gag job today by the Lions losing at home to the Steelers. Obviously devastating to the playoff odds for the Lions. So like the week after, you have kind of that deflate effect. But obviously the Vikings, the home team here, like you mentioned, J.J. McCarthy injured in the second quarter today against the Giants, and he was ruled out quite quickly. And when he went to the sideline, and we don't know yet, they haven't announced the extent of the injury, the specifics of the injury, I should say, as of the time that we're recording this. But it did not look good. He like winced in pain, kind of jerked his hand away. They immediately ran him off to the locker room before the team joined. The first half was not over yet. And they ruled him out so fast. I think it was before they went to commercial at halftime. Like they had already said, like that he's ruled out. It was really, really quick. The fear, of course, is some sort of broken bone in the throwing hand, but we'll have to see. Either way, I have to assume that, obviously that's being assumed in the line that was just dropped by Vegas. The Lions had the down performance, but the Vikings are going to have to start the undrafted rookie free agent, Max Brosmer at quarterback. Robbie, I'm gonna say Lions -8.5 at Minnesota on Thursday.
So right now the line sits at Lions -5.5, and I think that is because of 2 factors. Number one, the Viking defense, as we know, and as we've heard on Purple Daily, and we're going to hear on Thor Talks Purple all week how well this defense played against the Giants on Sunday. I think that's number one. And also number two, go back to the Lions-Vikings game about a month ago in Detroit. I mean, it wasn't just McCarthy that played well. I mean, Goff had major issues. The Vikings defense really bottled up Jahmyr Gibbs. So I think that's kind of baked into the number there, wouldn't you say? Would you agree with that?
That's probably right. I am surprised that it's not 6 or higher. But yeah, I think you're probably right. And it'll be interesting with that line sort of sitting in that in-between zone between the 6 and the 4.5, what the market does with that. Seems like the books are kind of like, market, you figure this thing out, and it'll be interesting to see which way they bat that line.
Yeah, no, absolutely. One of the more intriguing lines of the week, because the Lions now are hanging by a thread with the Vikings already eliminated from playoff contention, to the third game of the Christmas triple header, and the Broncos, who fell pretty hard at home today to the Jacksonville Jaguars, who, if you remember on the first episode of Thor's Hammers, I gave out the Jacksonville Jaguars as plus 750 to win the AFC. I'm sure those odds are going to go way, way down after a convincing win at Denver. I don't know if there's a quarterback right now that's playing better football than Trevor Lawrence. We'll get to the Jaguars later when they, I believe, take on the Colts in Indianapolis on Sunday. We'll get to that game in just a couple of minutes. But the Broncos come in at 12-3, Chiefs 6-9. We know they've mailed it in. They lost to one of the league's worst teams today in the Titans, as Cam Ward gets his win over a big scalp. So, Chiefs, Broncos in Kansas City. The Chiefs have obviously given it up. What do you think the Broncos are favored by?
Well, with the Gardner Minshew injury, I was trying to see if I could access my depth charts, and because do you know who the Chiefs starter is going to be with Minshew now hurt?
Could it be Tyler Thigpen?
I mean, like, yeah, you're way down there now. And the Chiefs, I mean, we talked about this, Robbie's pick on the last episode of the Titans, of the quit factor there with the Chiefs, which we saw today on Sunday against the Titans. And then you have Minshew's injury as well. With all that being said, and then obviously the Broncos there, you have the disappointing performance today against the Jaguars. I'm gonna go with, I'm going to say, I think Broncos, it's crazy because even though it's a night game in Arrowhead, typically a pretty vaunted place to play, I think the Broncos have to be favored by over a touchdown there. I'm going to say Broncos minus 7.5.
So the Broncos are a 10.5 point favorite.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And to be honest with you, I think that's a little rich. I think the Chiefs, if they were on the road, I can see a mail-in situation, high altitude, don't want to kind of cost themselves a potential payday next year in the offseason. But the fact that they're playing at home against a division rival, I'm almost tempted to take all those points. I mean, that's a lot of points. I understand that they're going to have a third-string quarterback in there. But if you looked at the way the Broncos played today, I wouldn't lay 10.5 with them against anybody. 100%. I wouldn't. That's either a Bronco or a pass for me, Thor. Would you agree?
Yeah, and the Chiefs, they hate the Broncos so much. Like, even though we saw the quit factor from the Chiefs today, and even though they're going to be down to their third-string quarterback, like, you would have to think the energy is going to be in that building night game on Christmas with the hated Broncos coming into town. They'd like to play spoiler. Just, yeah, and then Bo Nix on the road in that environment. I would take the points, too, if the line's that high.
Saturday doubleheader as we move from Christmas a couple days ahead to Saturday, and we go out to LA where the 11-4 Chargers take on the 10-5 Texans. Thor, this is another one that is quite intriguing as both of these teams seem ticketed for the AFC playoffs. It seems like an issue of seeding here as the Texans held on today and beat a plucky Raider team, while the Chargers destroyed the Cowboys. So what do you think this line is as the Texans head west to take on Justin Herbert and LA?
I'm going to say this is a good game. I'm going to say Chargers minus 3.5.
So Chargers are minus 1.5 in this game. I will tell you that a few days ago, the line look ahead for this game was Texans minus 1.5. So and we're giving you the lines, folks, as we tape this on Sunday night. Obviously, there are some way look ahead lines that I have kind of peered into and some access to. And The Texans were actually a favorite on the road before today's games. But if you look at the Texans struggling with a bad Raider team, and you look at the Chargers destroying a disinterested, I think, to put it kindly, Cowboy team today, that line has flipped from 1.5 underdog to a 1.5 point favorite. So the Chargers, a 1.5 point favorite. I'm not sure which way. I think that's a no play for me. I mean, the Texans defense travels. We know that. They've had some big road wins this year. And the Chargers, meanwhile, have pummeled some bad opponents at home and also done some good things on the road as well. So including beating the Chiefs and knocking them out last week. So a very intriguing game to lead things off. We have another good one on Saturday, Thor. You still haven't gotten one right yet. I think perhaps you may nail this one here because you know these two teams like the back of your hand. We talked about Lamar Jackson a lot last week, and you were right on the money. And 7-7, they come in this week with a game against the Patriots pending on Sunday night after we tape this. Against the Packers, who come in 9-5-1 after you just mentioned the gag job for the Lions. How about that gag job for the Green Bay Packers against the Chicago Bears? Ravens at Packers, 7-7 at 9-5-1. This game will be on Peacock, 7 o'clock on Saturday night. Packers playing their second consecutive Saturday in a interconference matchup here. Both teams really need the game. So, especially with the Steelers winning today in Detroit. So, your thoughts on the line in this one? Green Bay hosting the Ravens.
This game being at Lambeau, I'm going to say Green Bay -4.
So Green Bay -3.5. You were a half point off. We'll give you partial credit.
All right,
I know my teachers back in high school used to like to give me partial credit.
Yeah.
So I always enjoyed the partial credit because I felt like I was never failing. So partial credit was always good. So 3.5 is the line, and we'll see what the health of Jordan Love is going into next week.
Yeah, and that's a fair line, I feel like.
I agree.
Yeah, I was between 3.5, 4. But yeah, that's a fair line.
I agree. And we stay with the divisional matchups. A lot of divisional matchups. The NFL really likes to pack these divisional matchups into the last few weeks of the season. I agree with that strategy. I think it's a lot more jeopardy on the line. You have more rivalries, and even if the two teams are out of it, there's still teams fan bases that want to beat the others, just like the Cowboys and Commanders, Vikings and Lions, perhaps. This week, Vikings can knock the Lions out, so we'll see what happens there. And another instance of that, Thor, is one of the most hated rivals in the league, and that's the Steelers and Browns. And the Steelers go in 9-6 off of a big win in Detroit and 10-6 to take on the Browns, who are now 3-12. They lose Judkins, and they put up a fight against the Bills today until they really couldn't. They did a good job against Josh Allen, not so much against James Cook. So what does that hold for perhaps Jaylen Warren, Kenneth Gainwell, and the suddenly explosive Steeler running game as they go into Cleveland next week? We know the Steelers are going to be favored, but by how many?
I'm going to say Steelers -6.
So Steelers -3.5 right now.
Oh,
and
man.
I have to assume that the 3.5 that I'm seeing is not reflecting the win over the Lions. So that's a number that I've had as about an hour ago, and that's before they went on the road and beat the Lions. So perhaps it's closer to 6 right now. I would absolutely lay that, especially if I'm dealing with Shadur Sanders and a backup running back and a defense that really probably has no interest in stopping that two-headed monster that the Steelers all of a sudden now have in the backfield. So it's amazing how far they come, Thor, before we get to the next game, from Najee Harris to now Gainwell and Warren really doing a number on the ground, huh?
Yeah, and that line just seems light to me, and Judkins, like you mentioned, and then Rams 3-12 now. The 2 games left. I mean, we're going to see some real jockeying for draft position here at the end. How invested will the Browns be in that game? And the Steelers need it, and the Steelers look great today against the Lions. So I'm surprised that line's that low.
And we stay in the divisional matchup theme. We can blow through this next one because the Patriots, who are going to take on the Ravens on Sunday night, they'll come in either 11-4 or 12-3, hunting that number 1 seed in the AFC, and they'll take on the Jets 3-12 at the Meadowlands. Patriots a big favorite, but by how many?
Patriots by 12.5.
That is correct. So
Let's go.
12 and a half. So he gets his first one right as we head to the Sunday noon games. It figures it's Patriots Jets of all the games. I mean, talk about if we went through the watchability rankings of these games this week, I'm pretty sure that would be in the bottom three. Would you agree? Patriots at the Jets?
I would agree. The Jets lost today to the Saints 29-6. I mean, like, the Jets are going for the gold with the tanking, and obviously they have their extra draft picks and everything like that because of the trades they made around the deadline. So, yeah, this one's just there for the taking for the Patriots.
It is embarrassing, the last decade of New York football, from what we saw with the Giants today on the field against the Vikings to the Jets and their 6 head coaches in the last 9 years and their 7 quarterbacks in the last 8 years. And the Patriots, again, you nailed 12 and a half over the Jets. Speaking of the Saints, you just mentioned, they'll take on Tennessee in another nondescript game. New Orleans at Tennessee. The Saints come in 5-10, Titans 3-12. Titans did just beat the Mahomes-less Chiefs, though, on Sunday. Saints come in with a top 5 defense over the last month. I don't know how the heck that happened, but they beat the Panthers twice in the past month as well. So the Saints come in potentially as a favorite or an underdog. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, like, both these teams are still fighting, and I think, you know, part of that is because they have their quarterbacks on each side. So, and those quarterbacks played well today. Both those teams won convincingly today. That makes this one kind of interesting. I still think the books will have the Saints favored, even though they're on the road here. I think it's going to be tight, though. I'll say Saints minus 2.5.
So Thor, with his second consecutive dart throw, has nailed another spread, 2.5 after it. So it's the games that matter, I guess, that you can't go. So Ravens, Packers,
exactly,
and all those games you can't go. Saints, Titans. I mean, we are dumpster diving when it comes to guessing these spreads. But the Saints, though, I mean, your thoughts on Tyler Shuck, quick, before we jump to the next game and what kind of he's done in New Orleans and potentially them moving forward with him going into next season.
Yeah, gave him the opportunity to kind of win the 2026 job down the stretch here, and he's done that, you know, and he simultaneously had the opportunity to drive the Saints away from attractive quarterback in round 1 territory in this coming NFL draft, and there's going to be very few round 1 quarterbacks in this coming NFL draft, and Saints won't have access to them, but that is through the development and what they've seen from Tyler Shuck. So they have to be happy about it. You give Tyler Shuck another year. It's advanced age with Tyler Shuck, but if he struggles next year, that's the 2027 class with Arch Manning is coming right after that. So I think the Saints are playing this correctly. They'll give Shuck one more shot next year. They'll probably give him some more help in the draft, and then we'll see how the Saints do in 2026.
Well, from the Titans and the Saints to another couple of teams in the AFC South, and I teased it before, Jaguars at the Colts. Jaguars come into this game 12-4 with a huge win over the Broncos in Denver. They'll take on the Colts, who are yet to play this week as we tape this on Sunday. They'll take on the Niners on Monday night. They come in either 8-7 or 9-6, hanging on in the AFC wildcard race. Jaguars are favored, but by how many, Thor?
I'm going to say Jaguars minus 6.5 in this one. I wonder if I'm being too aggressive, but I'm going to say 6.5.
So I have a hockey game on in the background, and in that theme, Thor has now registered a hat trick. So 3 in a row for Thor, 6.5.
Really heating up.
The Jaguars, yeah, you really are heating up. It's like Nolan Ryan it's like a bullpen session. You just hear the mitt just keep popping.
I needed some practice shots at the free throw lane.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's so the Jaguars come in 6.5-point favorites, and again, one of the now maybe not such a dark horse to win the AFC.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see the updated AFC board. But yeah, you gave out the Jaguars plus 750 to win that conference, and I'll be curious. Certainly you have an arbitrage opportunity because those odds are going to be a lot lighter next week.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. And we stay in the state of Florida, and it's an all Florida battle as the Buccaneers will take on the Dolphins. Buccaneers 7-8, Dolphins 6-9, and that game is in Miami. Buccaneers throw away an opportunity to take control of the division with a loss at Carolina but by how many are they favored by at a Miami team that got crushed by the Bengals today?
Yeah, disappointing loss for the Buccaneers, but the Dolphins, even though they have the better record, they've joined the tanking teams. They're just overtly doing it. So that's it. Thinking about this line, maybe I have to talk it up a little bit. Um, I'm going to say Bucks -6, which probably seems more aggressive than the records, but with the Dolphins tanking, I'm going to say Bucks -6.
So Bucks -5.5 right now, and I can
Wow.
absolutely see that line moving up. You're right. The Dolphins have joined the tank parade along with the Jets and some other teams, and they've just basically mailed it in, and they'll be looking for as high a draft pick as possible. The Tua drama that surrounds them is just too hot to touch right now, and I was never on the Dolphins today. I saw an analyst on TV say that they were going to show up big today against the Bengals and come out with an effort. I have no idea where they got that from, but they sit a 5.5-point favorite against Tampa Bay. Intriguing NFC battle here, Thor, as we go. Seahawks, Panthers. Seahawks go east again for the 6th time this year, and they'll take on an 8-7 Panther team that comes off their biggest win in the division this year. They had beaten the Rams earlier this year, which was probably their biggest win of the season, but comes up with a big division win over the Bucks. So Seahawks, with that miraculous win over the Rams Thursday night, they come into Carolina going east for the 6th time. How many are they favored by in Carolina?
I'm going to say in this one, Seahawks -4.5.
So my line has it Seahawks -7, and I am very tempted to take the touchdown there with a team that's flying east against a Carolina team that has beaten the Rams this year. They just muscled up and beat the Bucks. I mean, I understand they laid a couple of eggs against the Saints, but that's a team that went into Lambeau and also won this year. So, and the Packer defense is no joke. So I'm all over the Panthers this week. Plus, if it's 7.5, absolutely. Do you agree?
I agree with you. Yeah, getting 7 with the home underdog there, and the multiple time zones traveled over by the Seahawks. I would have to check the against the spread data, but I doubt the against the spread data is great for teams that are traveling 2 time zones or more and then are favored on the road by 7 points or more. Before we even talk about the handicap itself. So two data points there, and then the other thing, I'm sure this line that there's. There's a bit of a tax that you're going to pay because the Seahawks, they played in the best Thursday game ever and all that stuff, and the heroics at the end to pull that game out in the wild comeback win. I don't know if that actually though helps the next week, right? Like coming off of a performance like that, there might be a slight deflate element there as well for Seattle in a spot where they have to travel a lot. So yeah, for me that would be take the points or nothing.
I agree, and I think the Seahawks are ripe for the picking after that big win, even though they're going to have a few days more rest. Cardinals go to Cincinnati and take on the Bengals. Joe Burrow red hot in his win over the Dolphins on Sunday. Cardinals not so much against on Sunday against the Falcons and Kirk Cousins, and they'll go on the road this week. So how many of the Bengals favored by against the Cardinals?
Bengals look like they might have found their offense again. And the Cardinals, of course, are one of our quit teams. So I'm going to say Bengals -6.
So Bengals -6.5 is what it's opened up, and I would not be surprised if that line shoots over 7. I mean, the way people love to bet the Bengals, they love to bet Burrow. They just put up 30-something points against Miami. They're going home. They're going to want to put on a show for their fans. The season's over. Burrow came out with those comments. I can absolutely see the Bengals putting up a 34-10 or some sort of shellacking on the Cardinals come this Sunday. Another one that I think Thor is probably going to get on the money, Giants at Raiders, because it's 2 nondescript out-of-it teams, and he's nailed the bad game so far, and this is another beauty as I roll my eyes if you're not watching us on YouTube. Giants come in with the identical record to the Raiders, 2-13. This is the battle for the number 1 pick, Thor. What's the line?
Yeah, both teams should just forfeit before the game starts.
Yeah.
Will they even give a 3-point spread here? I think is the question. I'm going to say no. I'm going to say Vegas -2.5.
So the Giants are actually a 1.5-point favorite, despite
on the road.
Yep, despite the Raiders.
The team I just watched today.
Yes.
Against losing the undrafted rookie free agent Brosmer played half that game. The Giants lost at home.
I went to the Vikings Commanders game live, and the Commanders were bad. What I watched today was significantly worse than what I watched live.
Giants are
bad,
and they've quit.
They were bad. They've quit. They're bad. They lost their left tackle.
They don't even trust Jackson Dart to throw.
No, he threw the ball 5 times in the first half. My friends from New York.
Straight run plays, it was weird.
Yeah, it was really weird. My friends were texting me from New York saying they're probably trying to protect him. That's what they're guessing. That's what they're guessing. They don't want to put him in harm's way. And you can see the couple of roughing the passer penalties that the Vikings had gotten. You can see that he's kind of ripe for the picking. And perhaps the Raiders are ripe for the picking in that game, as the Giants are a 1.5-point favorite. Probably the premier matchup of the week is Eagles and Bills. Eagles go up to Buffalo. They have already clinched the division. They sit at 10-5, Bills 11-4. And this game is the featured game on Fox. It'll be Burkhardt and Brady next week in Buffalo for one of the bigger games of the year. What is the spread in this one? This is probably the one I'm looking forward to you guessing the most, because of what these two teams have done in recent weeks.
Yeah, it's a good game. I'm gonna say Bills -3.
So the Bills have opened up a 2.5-point favorite. I would not be surprised to see that go up to 3. And then you'll see a lot of money come in on the Eagles. I think that's going to be just an amazing game, up potentially in the snow. They're calling for snow next week. The Eagles don't necessarily need it, but again, a small favorite. Buffalo is at home, and they're certainly going to need it. We head to the Sunday night game, NBC, 7:20, Bears at Niners. Niners still to play this week against the Colts. Potentially, if you're watching this as we tape this on Sunday, Bears come in 11-4, riding high off of a primetime win over the Packers. 49ers sit either at 11-4 or 10-5, depending on what they do on Monday night in Indianapolis. Really good game on Sunday night next week. Both teams jockeying for NFC playoff position. Your thoughts on the spread in this one, and how many the Niners are favored by at home?
Man, the Bears have been playing so well, pulling these games out. Obviously, go on the road here. Got to travel down to California. I'll say 49ers -3.
So the Niners are -2.5, and just like the Buffalo spread, those 2.5 numbers, what are they designed to do, Thor? They're designed to draw you in. Sometimes they are not real numbers. Like they're out there to draw you in. You think it's so easy to cover 2.5. I mean, it almost wasn't today for the Vikings, because I know that line closed at 2.5 today, as a lot of people bet the Giants today +3. But that line right now, 2.5 Niners, and I tend to lean with the Niners, barring any sort of injury on Monday night. I think the Bears, like the Seahawks, going cross country, are ripe for a letdown against a physical defense against a team that needs the game. I will be playing the Niners next Sunday night. We move to Monday night, and the Rams head to Atlanta to take on the Falcons. Rams 11-4 with a Heartbreak Hotel loss in Seattle. Falcons come off of a win in Arizona to get their 6th win of the year, and they'll take on the Rams at home. How many of the Rams favored by against Kirk Cousins and the Falcons?
It's a funny game. This is like a double incentive game, because the Rams obviously need it for their playoff positioning in that tight division, but they also own the Falcons' first-round pick, and every time the Falcons lose, that pick goes higher in the order, so that the Rams can drive themselves up higher in the first round by beating the Falcons as well. I'm going to say we get to double digits in this one with the Rams on the road. I'll say they just get there. I'll say Rams -10.
So Rams -8.5, and I wouldn't be surprised to see that line go up as well, with the Rams in a prime bounce back spot against a Falcon team. Yeah, I know they haven't quit, but Kirk Cousins against that Ram defense, I mean, we saw him here for a long time against some tough defenses, and it did not go well. So I may be leaning Rams there, although laying points on the road in a primetime game is not something that I normally do. But I think the Rams are the best team in the NFC, even though they lost on Thursday night, and potentially throwing my weight behind that. So we finished up the NFL slate here. Thor with a hat trick this week. I believe he got 3 or 4 right last week, if I remember correctly. Something around that.
There.
Yeah, but a hat trick is good enough this week. Some decent games. I think the slate was more star-studded last week than it will be this coming week. But again, the Christmas games, the primetime games look pretty good. Moving on to college football, and something we teased earlier, the 4 games here, we're going to have Thor take a stab at the spreads in the 4 college football playoff games. If you were lucky enough to watch that Miami Texas A&M defensive rock fight, you'll know the Hurricanes come into this game against Ohio State with one of the hotter defenses in the nation. I mean, all you had to do was turn that game on for 5 minutes and realize guys like Ruben Bain were flying all over the field. And they go into this game against Ohio State as an underdog, but by how many off of that gutty character win at Kyle Field?
The Ohio State offense against Miami defense is going to be a really, really fun matchup. Mm-hmm. The Ohio State defense against Miami offense, that matchup is going to be ugly. I struggle to see how Miami's going to score too many points in that game. I've never been a fan of their quarterback, Carson Beck. I'm going to say Ohio State minus. I'm between 10 and 10.5. I'll say 10.5 to start.
So the line I have is Ohio State minus 10. We'll give you partial credit again. Yeah. All right. So I was just going to say some places had a 10.5. I happen to write down 10, but I almost wrote down 10.5. So we'll give you partial credit. Your thoughts on that one. All right. So so I don't think we need any further thoughts on that. I think that's right where you thought the number would be. I think that's a fair number. Fair. They're going to have to win by 2 touchdowns to get the job done, and we'll see what Miami's offense can actually do against that Buckeye defense. Yeah. Moving on to New Year's Day with the triple header, and this will start with a game that, Thor, if you remember last week, we talked about Oregon getting by James Madison, which we knew was going to happen, and what the line potentially would be in this Oregon-Texas Tech game. And if you remember, which I'm not sure you do, I specifically told you that there was no way that they would make the Oregon Ducks an underdog against Texas Tech. I don't care how Texas Tech did down the stretch. So with that being said, was I right or was I wrong?
Oh, I don't know if you're saying, are you?
Well, I don't know. Well, it's like it's like we're playing Guess Who. It's like
a mind trick.
To tell the truth. Yeah, exactly.
This is going to be real close either way. I'm gonna say Texas Tech -1.
So the Oregon Ducks open up a 1.5 point favorite, which on name value alone, I just knew unless they really struggled with James Madison, I knew, especially with
that defense didn't look good.
No, it didn't. It didn't. Yeah. But they have the quarterback, they have the tight end, they can make plays. I'm not the biggest Ducks fan in the world, especially this iteration, but I think that's a fair line, and I think a toss up certainly is what's in the cards. I don't see this game being decided by more than a touchdown. I firmly believe that both of these teams are evenly matched. Alabama, on the other hand, down 17-0 with one of the all-time comebacks in Norman to defeat the Sooners. They'll take on the Indiana Hoosiers in a battle of all red and white uniforms. So your thoughts on what the Hoosiers are favored over the potentially overrated Alabama Crimson Tide, even though they just came back and beat Oklahoma.
Alabama definitely is overrated. I don't like that team at all. And I think whatever this is, I'm going to be laying the points with Cignetti, because Cignetti was an assistant under Saban for, 4, 5, 6 years. And he he was a position coach. He
Yeah.
wasn't even a coordinator. And then he had to leave. He went to, I think it was D2 is where he started. He wanted to be a head coach, and he knew he wasn't going to get like a coordinator job at Alabama. And then he had to work up from D2, and now he's become the sports new Nick Saban. And now he gets to play Alabama. I think Indiana's going to annihilate Alabama here. I'll say Indiana. I'll say Indiana minus 8.5, even though I think they're going to win by double digits.
So I think you're going to get a bargain on this because Indiana is -7 right now, and
Oh, love it.
this is an
I'm gonna
Alabama
hit that thing
name.
before it gets above 7.
Yeah, this is an Alabama name value, I
Yeah.
believe, and also
Indiana gonna roll.
it's recency bias as well. I mean, you go into Oklahoma, you beat that team, and you beat them up, and you didn't even give them a chance down the stretch. I mean, they pummeled them late down that stretch. I mean, they were running over them as Oklahoma really were just kind of hit with a 1-2 there. So I think that's why the spread is where it is. But I agree with you, though. I think Alabama's going to struggle, especially on defense, defending Mendoza and that Indiana Hoosier offense. And we go to the final game of the playoff, and it's Ole Miss and Georgia, an SEC battle as the Ole Miss Rebels take care of Tulane. Georgia in the SEC championship game now comes in at 12-1. Both teams looking to really make a run here. I believe on last week's Thor's Hammers, you gave out the Ole Miss Rebels at, was it 25 or 50-1 to win it all as a long shot? I know you gave out Oklahoma too, which we'll dismiss that, but you did give out Ole Miss. So what's your thoughts on what the opening spread is here, and how many are they underdog against the Bulldogs?
Yeah, I just thought Ole Miss had an interesting path with the freebie in round 1, and then you take on Georgia the second game, and we've seen that game in the regular season, and Ole Miss probably should have won that game, and Ole Miss matches up really well against Georgia. The same reasons, first game, the Ole Miss passing offense is really good, and Georgia's kryptonite. It's their bad pass defense. Obviously, Georgia's going to be favored in this game. And I'm going to be on Ole Miss, but Georgia's not going to be favored by a ton. I'm going to say Georgia -3.
So this is the one I think we're going to end on, unfortunately, a low note because Georgia is a 7-point favorite.
Oh,
against Ole Miss, which means you're going to be all over the Rebels.
Yes,
yeah,
I love that. Give me the 7.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Ole Miss is live in that game. Obviously they're getting discounted because of the coaching change from Kiffin to Pete Golding there, but the personnel that we saw in the field in the regular season game is going to be very similar here. And again, the teams that can beat Georgia or upset them, it's the teams that can pass on them. And we already know that Ole Miss can. It's not to say that they'll win. Obviously, with the interim staff, they're gonna have to have their best effort. Their A game in this one to win. But if they do, they might be able to hunt down Georgia in this game, pull the upset.
Yeah, I don't think this is a vintage Georgia team. I mean, we saw 3-4 years ago with those defenses that had 6, 7, 8, 9 pros on it. I mean, I'm not so sure that this is a Georgia team that has that type of talent. I think perhaps next year, I think they're a top 3 recruiting class in the nation. Perhaps next year they're going to make a better run in it. But you're right. I think Ole Miss is a live dog in this game, and I'll definitely be sprinkling on +7 and potentially on the money line. So again, for this episode of Line Look Ahead, Thor, we kind of ran through the NFL slate. We also ran through the college football playoff spreads. But tell the listeners what's coming up on New Year's Eve, because you have something special planned for all the bowl games.
Yeah, on coming up, our next live college football show with bowl show with me, Eric Froton, and Mike Bainbridge will be on Saturday morning, 9:30 a.m. Central on this channel. We also had a live show this past Saturday. So for anyone that joined us, check that out on Saturday. We'll be going over all the bowl games that day. And then again, like Robbie was mentioning on New Year's Eve, we'll be back another live show on this very same channel on Score North, talking about the college football playoff games. These round 2 ones, and then going forward with the first one on December 31st. That's the Miami Ohio State one, and then the 3 that are the next day on January 1st. But plenty of college football coming in. Of course, we're we're coming down the stretch here of the NFL season, so it's just a good time to be a football fan. But that's all the time that we have for today. Appreciate you, Robbie, for joining me, and appreciate the audience for joining us. As always, we will see you next time here on the Football Takes channel.